31 years ago, the Tokugawa shogun obtained an evil artifact known as the Monkey Claw, said to be capable of creating immortal soldiers. The master conducted countless experiments on corpses, but all of them turned into mindless gunkyo. Then the Tokugawa shogun fathered a pair of twins. To prevent a future succession dispute, one of the infants was secretly disposed of. In his madness, the shogun even sent the child's corpse to the master. Though tormented by guilt, the master still carried out the experiment. This time, the child not only revived but also retained consciousness. A servant happened to witness this scene. As he was about to report it to the shogun, the master knocked him unconscious. He knew the boy would bring untold disaster, yet he could not bring himself to kill an infant, so he entrusted the child to Dr. Jinji. To avoid detection by Tokugawa samurai, they covered his head and kept him confined.
三代将軍徳川家光様の双子の兄弟だ。
Just as Shiro is moved by this revelation, smoke suddenly drifts into the room. Ishibe is planning to force them out by fire. The master decides to draw the enemy's attention himself, allowing the others to escape through the back door. But Shiro believes everything started because of him. Now that he knows the truth of his identity, even dying would be worth it. The master tells him instead that both he and Dr. Jinji placed their lifelong hopes in Shiro. This body of yours must hide some kind of secret. Maybe it can even yield a miracle medicine that cures all diseases. In that instant, Shiro understands. To the master, he is nothing more than a successful experimental subject. Completely disappointed in humanity, blood-like tears stream from Shiro's eyes. Sensing something wrong, Aaron rushes into the room.
Sensei.
Shiro shoves the master away and walks out alone. He slowly draws his blade. Having completely abandoned his humanity, Shiro becomes terrifyingly powerful. The soldiers he kills rise again as gunkyo. At the same time, the master, who has been bitten, is about to turn as well. With his last shred of clarity, he picks up a dagger and plunges it into his own abdomen, hoping to atone for his past. Seeing his agony, Aaron takes on the role of the second and ends his suffering. But the bloody scene awakens a buried memory in Xiaoshi's mind. Her father was killed by Aaron in the exact same way years ago. She never imagined that the sister who raised her was actually her father's killer. Facing Xiaoshi's drawn blade, no explanation from Arin can change anything. Elsewhere, as more samurai are turned into gunkyo by Shiro, Ishibe is gradually overwhelmed. He even loses one eye. Then, Shiro's thrust accidentally strikes Xiaoshi. When Xiaoshi collapses, Aaron finally snaps back to reality. She desperately presses on the wound, but the blade through the heart has already taken Xiaoshi's life. As Aaron sinks into despair, she has no idea that a group of ninjas is closing in. They are from the very organization she once served. The clan leader intends to use the chaos to overthrow Tokugawa rule. With her sister killed by Shiro, Aaron tries to take revenge, but Ishibe stops her. A living Shiro still has research value. No one expects Shiro to break free and escape in the chaos. Broken inside, Aaron tries to follow her sister in death, but Ishibe stops her.
女の解釈はしないんだわ。
After failing his mission, Ishibe returns to Edo. Having lost the shogunate's trust, he is reassigned to a place called Tatsumura. The gunkyo there have already been exterminated. All that remains are imprisoned women tasked with cleanup work. Unable to disobey orders, Ishibe goes, only to discover that Tokugawa's chief physician Chiya is also there. He chops up gunkyo corpses and boils them in a massive cauldron, trying to extract a medicine far ahead of its time. The sight makes Ishibe feel sick. For the female prisoners, however, this is considered a good assignment. Becoming the doctor's assistant means a chance at early release. But late at night, the prisoners suddenly grab straw mats, cover one of the women, and begin beating her. They can't stand seeing someone else better off than themselves. During the day, they are sent out to hunt for any gunkyo that slipped through the net. Since arriving here, Aaron hasn't spoken a word. Even when facing gunkyo, she shows no fear. Clearly, she no longer wants to live.
いや、言えよ、例ぐらい。
The kind-hearted Satomi notices everything. She steals a steamed bun, hoping to persuade Aaron to keep living. The theft is quickly discovered, and the two get into a scuffle. Satomi's pendant falls out. Aaron glances at it and quickly pockets it. Later, in a secluded corner, she returns the cross-engraved pendant. Satomi is a Christian, but under the shogunate, belief in God is a capital crime. Meanwhile, Ishibe feels restless, with nowhere to vent his frustration. Just then, a subordinate reports that someone resembling Shiro has appeared in Muri village. The scene shifts. A battered female prisoner routinely tosses chunks of gunkyo flesh into the boiling cauldron. Since starting this work, her body has grown weaker by the day, and strange fluid often seeps from her nose. That day's lunch is unusually lavish. The prisoners are thrilled to find a piece of rib meat at the bottom of every bowl, and they devour it eagerly. The dominant inmate has long held a grudge against the aloof Arin. She dumps her food onto the ground. Unable to tolerate it, Satomi steps in to defend Arin. The two women start fighting, and Satomi's pendant falls again. Like sharks smelling blood, the prisoners immediately declare Satomi's death sentence. Arin snatches up the pendant and hands it back, giving the leader an excuse to punish them both. The prisoners swarm in and tie the two women together. At the same time, Ishibe finally receives confirmation. Shiro is indeed in Muri village. Just as he prepares to depart, Arin and Satomi are bound in their cell. Suddenly, shrill manic laughter echoes through the prison. The doctor's assistant turns around, his face smeared with blood, wearing a grotesque grin. The prisoners freeze in terror. He repeatedly smashes his head against the cell wall, as if feeling no pain at all, until he collapses dead. Before Arin can react, the prisoners' bodies begin to convulse uncontrollably. The soup they drank contained gunkyo flesh. The guards outside notice the disturbance, but unprepared, they become easy prey. Their deaths buy Arin and Satomi a brief moment of respite. Still bound, they will be eaten sooner or later. At the critical moment, Ishibe arrives. With his short blade, he swiftly kills several gunkyo and rushes to free Arin. Arin can't believe her ears, but even if there's only a 1 in 10,000 chance, she's willing to bet everything. She grabs the spike Ishibe hands her and instantly pierces the necks of several gunkyo. Just then, Dr. Chia walks in. Ishibe urges her to head for Muri village immediately. If the extermination force arrives first, Xiaoshi, who has returned from the dead, will surely be taken away as an experimental subject. Arin does not dare waste a second and rushes out of the prison. Before long, raging flames engulf the area. Arin sprints toward Muri village. Suddenly, Satomi feels an itch in her nose and a stream of green liquid flows out. In this chaotic world, Arin had finally made a friend. Yet she is forced to end Satomi's life with her own hands. Learning that Xiaoshi may still be alive, Arin presses on toward Muri village. Along the way, gunkyo are everywhere. It is clear that the outbreak is nearing its breaking point. Upon reaching Muri village, she hears the sound of scripture being recited. The villagers here have already come to regard Shiro as the incarnation of God. They immediately grow wary. Arin hurriedly explains that she is Satomi's friend, though Satomi is already dead. At that moment, a boy breaks down and runs out. He is Satomi's child. Only then does the village chief lower his guard. When he learns that Arin has come looking for Shiro, he leads her to a secluded estate. When the door is opened, a gunkyo is revealed, bound to a cross like Jesus himself. The village chief explains that when Shiro arrived in Muri village, he was carrying a child who had already died. In front of everyone, he continuously recited passages from the Bible. Then, a single blood-red tear fell from his eye into Xiaoshi's mouth. From that day on, the villagers believed him to be a divine incarnation, but Arin only cares about where the two of them are now. The village chief says that Shiro was captured by the extermination force 2 days ago, while Shoshi fled to Seagull Town. Having learned her sister's whereabouts, Arin quickly packs and prepares to leave. At that moment, the extermination force returns once more. The villagers hurriedly hide their idols and crosses. A samurai produces a wanted notice. The person on it is Arin. The village chief claims that no strangers have been seen in recent days, but in an age where human life is worth less than dirt, the samurai draws his blade, preparing to kill as a warning. Hidden nearby, Arin can no longer hold back. Arin quietly leaves the village. The villagers bind the samurai and push the 3 men into a room. At this moment, they have no idea what awaits them. A roar echoes through the space, and a terrifying gunkyo slowly approaches them. The scene shifts to Edo. Ishibe finally locks Shiro inside a cell, but after Ishibe leaves, Shiro's joints crack loudly and his body shrinks slightly. Late at night, the third shogun, Tokugawa Iemitsu, hears footsteps. Through the curtain, he sees Shiro seated calmly across from him. Iemitsu dismisses his consort and steps forward. He has always wanted to meet his younger brother. Their lives could not be more different. Shiro has become the source of calamity, living like livestock. Iemitsu, though the supreme shogun, has lived only for duty, never knowing a single day of freedom. Meanwhile, Ishibe arrives at the cell to find the guards already turned into gunkyo. He rushes inside. Shiro holds his blade to Iemitsu's throat. He wants nothing more than a normal life. If spared, he promises never to treat humans as food again. Tokugawa Iemitsu agrees. Reluctantly, Ishibe sheaths his sword. Before leaving, Shiro suddenly adds,
この城には軍協がいる。だいぶ古い匂いがする。気をつけた方がいい。
Early the next morning, Tokugawa Iemitsu summons his wet nurse and the chief minister. The two have long controlled the court from the shadows. Seeing them still trying to cover things up, Iemitsu flies into a rage and places his blade at the wet nurse's neck.
それを見る覚悟は終わりか。
They enter a deep, hidden passage. The further they go, the stronger the stench of decay becomes. Inside a cell, the wet nurse and the chief minister drop to their knees. A gunkyo is gnawing on a woman's body. Only then does Iemitsu realize. She is the woman who shared his bed the night before. The bloated gunkyo slowly turns around. Though its face is unrecognizable, the armor leaves no doubt as to its identity.
まさかこれは神君家康か。
Elsewhere, Arin rushes toward Seagull Town. By the roadside sits a girl. It is Xiaoxi. Overjoyed, Arin runs to her, but notices the blood at the corner of her mouth. Just then, a gunkyo beside her rises and staggers toward Arin.
来てくれたの？あなた、話せるのね。化け物になっちゃった。
At the river, Xiaoxi washes the blood from her lips. After becoming a gunkyo, her coughing illness has been cured, but her heart is now consumed by bloodlust, constantly craving fresh flesh. Arin embraces her from behind. No matter what Xiaoxi becomes, she is still her only family. Arin kneels, wanting to apologize for killing Xiaoxi's father all those years ago. Having died once herself, Xiaoxi finally understands everything Arin has done. Just as the story seems to move toward reconciliation,
どこまでだ。
the man in the lead says that if Xiaoxi is handed over, Arin will be allowed to leave. Outnumbered, Arin has no way out. At that critical moment, arrows suddenly rain down. A familiar voice sounds behind Arin. The woman before her is the very leader Arin once served. With Xiaoxi as leverage, they are only one step away from overthrowing the shogunate. The bloated corpse before them is none other than Tokugawa Ieyasu, the man who founded the shogunate. But in the next moment, his grandson steps forward. Tokugawa Iemitsu declares that his era is long over. He will not allow the gunkyo to continue existing in this world. He immediately orders Ishibe to hunt down Shiro, to eliminate the threat once and for all.
承知。
Elsewhere, Arin and Xiaoxi are surrounded by the leader. It turns out their relationship is far from simple.
この人って。
私の母よ。
But because Arin betrayed the ninja organization, even her own daughter must be punished according to the law. Before that, the leader finally reveals her true motive. All of this was nothing more than a business deal. They know full well that they stand no chance against the Tokugawa clan on their own. But Portuguese merchants have shown great interest in the gunkyo. They offer a reward large enough to buy half of Japan, in exchange for a gunkyo like Shiro. And now, Xiaoxi clearly meets that requirement. Arin refuses to wait for death. Everything she knows was taught by her mother. She has no chance of winning. Worse still, the dagger she was just stabbed with had been coated in a deadly poison. Before long, Arin completely stops breathing. The leader shows no mercy and leaves with Xiaoxi. After an unknown amount of time, Arin awakens and sees the poisoned blood that has been drained from her body. She wonders why Shiro saved her. It turns out that on his way to Seagull Town, Shiro happened upon Arin barely clinging to life and saved her on impulse. But Arin draws her katana. She believes it was Shiro who took Xiaoxi away from her. Shiro explains that Xiaoxi chose to go with him to Seagull Town and leave the country. He adds that he will bring Xiaoxi back. With that, Shiro turns and leaves. The scene shifts. Xiaoxi is tightly bound, waiting for the Portuguese merchant's ship. Before long, Shiro walks straight in alone and draws his sword, intending to take her away. The next second, several ninjas leap out from the shadows and surround him. Xiaoxi was nothing more than bait. Seeing the fortune within reach, the leader is overjoyed. But suddenly, the ninja Aoba senses approaching footsteps. Ishibe has arrived with the extermination force. With no other choice, the group retreats, leaving behind expendable men to delay their pursuers. Shiro and Xiaoxi are taken to a hidden room. Shiro suddenly notices a figure concealed in the shadows. It is Arin. Unable to rest easy, she followed them all the way. She quietly cuts their bonds with her dagger, but the next moment, a guard notices them. Seeing Xiaoxi's bloodthirsty state, Arin feels as if her heart is being torn apart. The three of them hurry to escape. When the leader returns, all that remains are ropes scattered across the floor, and several gunkyo surrounding them. The leader grabs Aoba and pulls her in front as a shield. Her scream immediately draws Ishibe's attention. But the compound is already swarming with gunkyo, and Ishibe can only lead the extermination force in a desperate struggle. Meanwhile, Shiro leads Xiaoxi through hiding places and finally reaches the docks. At that moment, Arin places her katana against Shiro's neck. She knows that as long as Shiro lives, Xiaoxi will never have a peaceful life by his side. Xiaoxi steps between them. Arin's love is suffocating. Xiaoxi only wants a life no longer bound by others. Just then, they quickly help Shiro up and hide inside an abandoned building. Before long, the leader tracks them down, musket in hand. This time, Arin refuses to keep running. She intends to kill her herself and carve out a single chance for Xiaoxi to live. Without hesitation, Arin drives her dagger deep into the leader's body. Defeated, the leader urges her to finish it, but Arin refuses to stain her hands further and refuses to bear the name of a mother killer. Elsewhere, the three are blocked by Ishibe. Arin charges forward without hesitation. This is the last thing she can do for Xiaoxi. Ishibe has feelings for Arin and can only watch as Shiro escapes. At that moment, countless gunkyo appear behind them, sealing off the alley. The two fight with everything they have, trying to carve a way out. Even Ishibe, a top-tier warrior, rapidly loses stamina under the endless swings. They fight and retreat. But in a moment of carelessness, Ishibe is knocked to the ground by a gunkyo from behind, only to be saved by Arin. Arin continues to struggle desperately, but the gunkyo surge forward like a tide. Suddenly, she freezes. Her arm has been bitten. She yanks it free and charges out of the building like a madwoman. Exhausted, she collapses to the ground. Looking at the gunkyo ahead, moving like walking corpses, she refuses to become one of them. Arin presses her katana to her own neck. But thinking that she may one day see Xiaoxi again, she turns the blade and, without hesitation, cuts off her own arm. Facing the oncoming gunkyo, she drains every last bit of strength she has and carves a bloody path forward with a single arm. The scene shifts again. After fleeing all night, the two finally reach the shore and meet the boatman waiting for them. But Shiro collapses from blood loss. He knows he can no longer continue the journey. After saying goodbye to Xiaoxi, Shiro takes his final breath. Not long after, Ishibe arrives. After enduring countless hardships, he has finally completed Tokugawa Yamitsu's order. Arin gazes at the small boat disappearing into the distance, silently bidding Xiaoxi farewell in her heart. At the end of the story, Arin and Ishibe sit together on the grass. One has lost an eye, the other an arm. Perhaps their fates are destined to intertwine from here on.